our social class project in our race, class, and gender course, we went to 4 different restaurants. At each of the restaurants, 2 of us were dressed sloppily to depict lower class, and 2 of us were dressed nicely to depict higher class.
Before we went to the restaurants, we made predictions about how we would be treated when we were dressed sloppily versus dressy.
Here are our predictions. We predict that the people dressed nicely will be treated better than the people dressed sloppily.
At the pizza place, we were dressed nicely. We were seated in a nice booth by the window, but our host was very unfriendly.
It took 6 minutes for our salad to arrive, and 10 minutes from then until the pizza came.
Our waitress checked on us 9 times and was friendly.
She refilled our water once, but she didn't tell us that we had to take the check up to the counter to pay.
We gave her an 8 on a scale from 1 to 10.
At the pizza place, we were dressed sloppily.
We were seated in a booth in the back near the bathrooms.
Our host was really unfriendly.
It took 4 minutes and 30 seconds for our salad to arrive, and 8.5 minutes until our pizza came.
Our waitress checked on us 7 times.
She was relatively friendly, except that she told us she would bring us water in just a second.
10 minutes later, she filled up my glass, but not hers.
She also didn't tell us that we needed to bring our check up to the counter to pay.
We gave her a 6 on a scale from 1 to 10.
At the breakfast place, we were dressed sloppily. We were seated in a booth in the back near the bathrooms.
Our hostess was nice.
It took 10 minutes for the waitress to take our order, and 15 minutes and 30 seconds from then until the food came.
When we tried to order something from the kids' menu, the waitress said no rudely.
The waitress refilled our water once, and my food was cold.
We gave our waitress a 5 on a scale from 1 to 10.
At the breakfast diner, we were dressed nicely.
We were seated at a table in the middle of the restaurant.
They pulled out my chair when we arrived.
It took 7 minutes and 15 seconds for the food to arrive.
Our waitress checked on us 6 times and was relatively nice.
She did not refill our water.
We gave her an 8 on a scale from 1 to 10.
At the Italian restaurant, we were dressed sloppily.
We were seated in a booth near the front of the restaurant.
The hostess was nice and offered us a choice of a booth or a table. The waiter gave us a tour of the menu.
It took 3 minutes until our order was taken and 8 minutes for our food to arrive.
He came over 10 times to check on us and refilled our soda 3 times.
We gave him an 8 on a scale from 1 to 10.
At the Italian restaurant, we were dressed nicely.
We were seated in a booth at the back by the window.
The hostess was nice, and she offered us a choice of a booth or a table.
It took 15 minutes until our waiter took the order, and from then it was only 4.5 minutes until our salad arrived.
The waiter was nice, and he even gave us a tour of the menu.
He refilled our water 4 times and checked on us 14 times.
We gave him a rating of a 9 on the scale of 1 to 10.
We were dressed nicely at the Mexican restaurant.
We were seated at a table in the middle of the restaurant. The hostess was nice.
Our waitress asked us if we wanted a drink 20 seconds after we sat down.
It took 11 minutes for our appetizers to come and 12 minutes from then until our food came.
The waitress refilled our drinks 2 times and checked on us 6 times.
The food was good and the waitress was nice, but it took a long time for her to bring the check.
We gave her a 7 on a scale from 1 to 10.
We were dressed sloppily at the Mexican restaurant.
When we arrived at the restaurant, the hostess told us that she'd seat us in just a minute, but she never came back, and eventually a waiter had to seat us.
We were seated in a booth in the corner of the restaurant, even though there was a table near the front of the restaurant that had silverware already on it.
After 8 minutes, the waitress took our order, and it was 19 minutes from then until our food came.
The waitress checked on us 10 times and was nice.
We gave her an 8 on a scale of 1 to 10.
Here is our data.
Noticed that at the nicer restaurants, the ones of us who were dressed sloppily were actually treated very nicely, and that might be because the wait staff was trained to treat all people nicely. But At the not as nice restaurants, the ones of us that were dressed sloppily were actually treated very poorly because people there are used to sloppy people coming in. In conclusion, we feel like there isn't a big difference in the treatment of restaurant patrons according to class.
However, we do feel like there is a difference in where patrons are seated.
In all of the restaurants we went to, the sloppily dressed people were seated where not as many people would see them.
The waitresses and waiters are trained to act respectfully to everybody, and for the most part they did, regardless of the way that we were dressed.
We did feel like, in the fancier restaurants, the sloppily dressed people were served faster than the nicely dressed people.
We wondered if this was because the waitstaff wanted to rush the sloppily dressed people.
In the less nice restaurants, the dressier people were served faster.
This may be because the waitstaff wanted to make sure that they were extra attentive.
Overall, we don't think that social class plays a major role in the treatment of patrons at restaurants.